Welcome to Girl, I Got You, and I am your host, Toya. I am so glad that you guys are back with me today. Okay, so check this out. Last episode, we left off talking about therapy. We talked about the importance of therapy. We talked about the importance of even staying in therapy, even after you've gotten to a place of healing, after you've seen some growth taking place on this journey. It's so important to still stick with it. Okay, so with that being said, today we are going to get into embracing this journey of healing that we're on and making space for our emotions. Because listen, how many of us know on this journey, girl, the emotions, they be emotioning. They are all over the place. We be feeling all the things. So, what I want to talk to you guys today is about embracing that and what it looks like to make space for that. So, okay, I shared with you about how I got here in front of you, right? Back in 2020, my husband at the time came to me and said that he wanted a separation. So during that time, we were still separated. And like I said, I was going. I'm doing academic management. I'm working from home. I'm trying to still process everything that's going on, trying to show up as a mom, doing my best to heal. So I thought, right? So I remember one day the kids had started back to school. This time they were in what they called an educational pod. So they were able to go outside of the house and be in a small community of students during COVID and do their homeschooling. And I was home one day and it was such a dreary and such a cloudy day. And the new place I was in had a lot of windows in the front room. So during that time, I was listening to worship music. And I'm telling you, I don't know what happened, but there was such a wave of emotion that fell over me. And I just began to cry. And I believe up to that point, I really hadn't cried about what was going on. Remember, I told you there was no time for me to heal, it just was not on the agenda. But this time I began to cry. And before I knew it, I couldn't stop. I'm talking about that type of crying. Listen, sis, I was weeping. Okay. I was weeping and it could not stop. So before I knew it, I made my way to the bathroom just to get some tissue to dry my eyes. And I still could not stop crying. And before I knew it, I found myself balled up on the floor in like the fetal position and just crying out to God. Why me? Why now? Why this? I don't know what to do with all of this. And in this moment, I believe God was trying to get my attention to let me know, you're right. You can't do it. You can't do it by yourself. We cannot do this thing alone. We don't aren't supposed to be in isolation. We need community. We need God. And He says He's there with us. But in that moment, what I needed to do was to acknowledge the loss. I hadn't sat with it. I hadn't acknowledged it, especially during the season of separation, because sometimes you have no idea what's going on. Are we going to work it out? Are we moving towards divorce? Are we going to get back together? What does that look like? It's such a season of uncertainty. So you don't know whether or not to acknowledge the loss or not, because have I lost? Did I lose out? But I still had to acknowledge the loss because at this point in separate households, I lost the life that I knew. And I was losing the life that I thought that I would have. So anytime we go through a loss, like I said before, it's grief. We need to grieve the loss. You need to grieve the life that you once knew, the life that was present before you, all the dreams, all the hopes, all the visions, all the plans that you were making for the future. Now, I'm going to say this with separation and divorce, and really, again, with any loss, you really have to look at it as it's a mourning season. And like I said, you need to grieve it. But what a lot of people don't realize or may not talk about, it is like a death. But it's like a perpetual death because you're literally grieving someone who is still alive, who you still have contact with. If you have kids, you still got to co parent with this person. So it brings up a lot. So again, you need to acknowledge the loss. What have you lost? Listen, I want you to put in the comments, share what have you lost? Have you grieved the loss? Where do you find yourself on this journey? What do you need to acknowledge today? It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work, and you have to sit with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and where you are. This opens up a space of so many possibilities if we can just get to that place of acknowledgement. So, okay, listen, ladies, I want you to stay tuned. I want you to stick with me. And after this short break, we're going to come back and I'm going to let you in a little more on what it looks like to make space for our emotions. Stay tuned.
Don't miss out on the opportunity to be inspired, informed, and empowered. We are B3 Media TV.